Hey, so I'm hoping that you don't have plans for Sunday, November 8th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, because Aaron and I are hosting Functional Approaches to Evaluation and Treatments of Pediatric Feeding Disorders for .4 ASHA CEUs. We are inviting some of our favorite colleagues to come join us. We have an occupational therapist, a registered dietitian, and the guru behind the only truly transitional food on the market. And after 3 solid hours of delightful live Q&A, we're going to do an hour jam-packed full of functional case studies from the beginning to the end, how we could all work together interprofessionally, and what additional professions we would pull in to assist with the case. So please come join us. For more information, be sure to check out speechtherapypd.com. And I am so looking forward to taking your live Q&A on Sunday, November 8th.
So by now, I'm hoping that you've heard about the brand new PodCourse subscription that Speech Therapy PD has rolled out. For $79 a month, you get over 175 hours of ASHA continuing education with 19 new episodes a month. That's fantastic. Well, they want to make sure that you also know we have a brand new coupon code. So the coupon code is F as in first, B as in bite, followed by the number 20, FB20. And that brand new coupon code will give you $20 off the PodCourse subscription. So you get 175 hours of continuing ed plus an average of 19 new hours a month, all for $59 a year. And we cover everything from early intervention to schools to adults to ethics. So be sure to type in F as in first, B as in bite, and then the number's 20. Enjoy your coupon, or as my kin folks say, enjoy that coupon. Hi folks, and welcome to First Bite, Fed, Fun, and Functional, a speech therapy podcast sponsored by SpeechTherapyPD.com. I am your host on this nerd venture, Michelle Dawson, MS, CCC, SLP, CLC, the All Things Peds SLP. I am a colleague in the trenches of home health early intervention, right there with you. I run my own private practice, Heartwood Speech Therapy, here in Culvertown, South Carolina, and I guest lecture nationwide on best practices for early intervention for the medically complex and fragile child. First Bite's mission is short and sweet, to bring light, hope, knowledge, and joy to the pediatric clinician, parent, or advocate.
By way of a nerdy conversation, so there's plenty of laughter too.
In this podcast, we cover everything from AAC to breastfeeding,
ethics on how to run a private practice,
pediatric dysphagia to clinical supervision,
and all other topics in the world of pediatric speech pathology. Our goal is to bring evidence-based practice straight to you by interviewing subject matter experts.
To break down the communication barriers so that we can access the knowledge of their fields.
Or, as a close friend says, to build the bridge.
By bringing other professionals and experts in our field together, we hope to spark advocacy, joy, and passion for continuing to grow and advance care for our little ones.
Every 4th episode, I join in. I'm Erin Forward, MSP, CCC-SLP, the Yankee by way of Rochester, New York transplant who actually inspired this journey. I bring a different perspective, that of a newish clinician with experience in early intervention, pediatric acute care, and nonprofit pediatric outpatient settings.
So sit back, relax, and watch out for all our squirrels and enjoy this geeky gig brought to you by SpeechTherapyPD.com. So today's episode is an outgrowth of a complex set of feelings. So let me explain. We all love speech therapy, and we mostly all love to travel, right? Especially when there's not like a pandemic going on. And y'all, we all love to put good in the world. So the natural intersection of these three amazing ideas and passions is traveling SLPs. Ta-da! On the surface, it's the easiest outgrowth of those three ideas. But y'all, it is way more complicated than that. And it turns out that in the process of attempting to do good, folks are either intentionally or accidentally causing harm in their adventures abroad when they're conducting, for lack of a better phrase, travel speech therapy. And that's why today's guest, Ms. Kari Lim, MSCCC-SLP, formerly Kari Comer, past president of the Washington, D.C. Speech Hearing Association and clinical supervisor at George Washington University, is here to advise us. Y'all, this amazing SLP has created study abroad programs for her graduate school, and she's here to mentor us on how to do the thing and to do the thing right. And y'all, also, I just have to say, Kari has mentored me personally in my new walk as clinic coordinator over at FMU, and I would not be where I am today had it not been for her saying, Michelle, breathe, you got this. And then like telling me basically how and what to do. So yay, Kari, thank you.
Oh my, thank you.
Yes, I am so grateful for you and your encouraging emails. So thank you. And dog shakes in agreement. Yes. So yes.
Well, you are a rock star.
Thank you. Okay. So you used to be Kari Comer, but an exciting thing happened this pandemic and you're no longer a Kari Comer. So any new and exciting news, ma'am?
Yep. So I got married 2 weeks into the shutdown. The good news is, though, we got married in peak cherry blossom. The weather was perfect, and we had the National Mall to ourselves. But getting married in pandemic, slows things down. So formally changing my last name is a really long process, but eventually we will get there.
I mean, what did you say? You're Kari Limbo. Love it. That's great. I mean, one day I'm going to have to reorder my diplomas with not my ex-husband's last name on it. 11 years later, it's cool, casual. I'll get around to it. That's expensive. Those universities want a lot of money just to change my last name. And I'm like, I'm content to hang my son's artwork on the wall as opposed to my diplomas. So yeah. If anybody swings by my office, I have a whole lot of Star Wars Imperial walkers and skeletons instead of diplomas, but I promise I'm an adult. Okay. All right. So I digress. So we are covering traveling therapy, also known as basically voluntourism. Mm-hmm. And this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart because of my sweet friend Mern, because she feels she was, she's like my go-to source for all things cultural competency, right? And so she was explaining to me about how individuals are going abroad, but when they mean to do good, they're taking pictures, but that can exacerbate negative cultural norms and societal norms. And so her and I got to talking about this last year when we were, technically a year and change ago when we were at ASHA. And then when you and I were talking on the last random phone call of me calling oh my God, what do I do? And we brought it up. You were explaining to me that this is a passion that's near and dear to you. So how in the world did global SLPs, how did you get into that?
It was just a lot of researching on my own and just saying yes to everything as doors started to open. I was interested in this shortly after grad school, and I did do travel speech therapy within the U.S., but I really wanted to go abroad and see what was out there. Like you said earlier, to combine my passion of speech pathology, but also my passion of travel and wanting to give back. And just over the years, I've really learned some helpful things, some things that, may be hurtful, things that people haven't thought about, but in the long run may actually hurt the culture. And there's a lot of great resources out there. There's certainly more now than ever. Certainly when I started about 10 years ago, there's more study abroad programs out there. ASHA has some great resources. Social media and Facebook is great. They have pages dedicated specific to international SLPs. A few that I follow, Global Community of SLPs,
SLPs going abroad, SLPs overseas. Those are all pages on Facebook.
Wait. Okay. Do they have an Instagram handle?
Oh, probably. I'm not that savvy with Instagram, but I'm sure they do.
All right, it was Global SLPs Abroad.
So global community of SLPs is one that I follow, SLPs going abroad and SLPs overseas.
Okay. I'm going to do the Google and then find them and track them down on Instagram.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
And they're great. They advertise short and long-term opportunities, but also it's great to network because you can track people by country, reach out to a country that you're interested in seeing what, even if you want to move abroad and you're not interested in short-term, then you can look and see what the protocol for practicing in that country is. And like I said, ASHA, the special interest group, CCC-17 is the global issues one. That listserv is a gold mine. Always things coming up within that listserv.
I didn't know ASHA had a SIG for that.
Yep, they do. And like I said, it's been a gold mine. That's actually how I found several of the volunteer opportunities that I worked with. One was in Guyana in South America, and the other was in Africa. People posted on the CCC-17 listserv, and I just followed up. Also, I did a trip in Mexico, and this ASHA listserv was how I found out about that as well.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Okay.
And I was going to say that SIG does actually have a book club with SLPs from all over the world. So I can send that information if anyone is interested in joining. It's a great dialogue. It meets once every 3 months. And we read a book and we talk about globalization related to our field and, how to do things more of the right way than the wrong way.
That's okay. So what are some of the books that you guys have read?
So the first one we read was It's Not All About Me, which was written by somebody who started a nonprofit in Cambodia. And she had a lot of great points in there. The others I'd have to look up. One was, I think We Don't Need Any More Heroes or something similar like that.
And that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that idea. SIG-13, to my knowledge, does not have a book club because it's the dysphagia one, and I pretty much stick to my tiny little swallow SIG. That's not very tiny, but tis the one little weird thing that I do. But and I'm really secretly hoping that one day they divide SIG-13 in half and make it adult swallow versus pediatric swallow because. They're so very different, but I mean, a girl can dream, right? So, add that to my to-do list for advocacy. Okay. All right. So let's, before we divert too far down, book clubs, how can someone just starting out, and I'm kind of interested from if you have tips for a CF that's looking at getting involved in an international club versus someone with their Cs, how they could get involved in an international program.
So universities more and more are having study abroad programs that are open to people outside of their university. So for a graduate student or a CF, I would highly recommend that. One program in particular is Portland State out in Oregon. They do have an education abroad program and they go to Ecuador, and that's open to anyone. There's a few other programs as well that, again, are open to professionals, students, or CFs. So I think that's a great place to start, especially if you're a student. Chances are you'll be able to use that credit towards an elective or other course in your graduate program. Once you have your Cs, I think the opportunities are slightly different. Of course, you're going to have more opportunities, and you'll have the opportunity to supervise and mentor. So I think a lot of times CFs and students are looking for a chance to go and learn, observe, maybe do some hands-on stuff, which I think is a really important topic we should come back to. But as a SLP with your Cs, you're, obviously have more experience. You may feel like you have more to give. And so your role may actually change and you become more of a supervisor or mentor.
Okay. So forgive me, I have not thought about traveling abroad. I mean, it crossed my mind for the international smile train, right? But Goose and Bear I end up staying closer to home because it is when I think of these travel abroad programs, I view them as, 2 weeks or 3 weeks away from my family. But
Mhm.
how long are they typically in length?
So they really vary. The programs I've done have been anywhere from a week to 2 weeks. There are certainly programs out there. So Speech Therapy Cambodia, for example, that may have professionals on ground. And so they're looking for somebody who can go 2, 3, 4 months at a time or more, maybe even a year. So it just really varies on the goal of the program and what their work is. But there are also opportunities to work remotely with programs abroad. So I have taught and supervised and mentored all online.
What? I
Mhm.
could do that. That's cool. Okay, so tell me about that.
So I found all of these opportunities just, kind of researching, seeing where doors opened. And, I love to walk through every door that opens and see what comes from it. And so like right now I'm currently mentoring an SLP in Ghana. And I actually came across her. I went to a conference in Ireland and met somebody who works in New Zealand. And she had started a program in Ghana. Her and her family had lived there for over 10 years. And so when she left, this program continued, and then the SLP came on board in Ghana. And so her and I, touch base several times a year, just seeing how things are going. And I send her anything and everything I can get my hands on, and just reaching out and saying, oh, have you heard this? It's a great way to stay connected, which is really, really important. A lot of people look at international work as just one and done. I'll go here for 2 weeks. I'll take my pictures, like you said, and then I'll go back home and I will be a changed person. But you really need to ask yourself, once you leave, how is the country going to be better? How are the families going to be better? And that really is the ultimate question you need to ask when you are looking into opportunities to go abroad, because there are a lot for voluntourism, for sure. But I view voluntourism as having the biggest impact on yourself versus the country that you may be visiting.
Ah, that is beautiful. So I can't help but I am who I am, right? And faith is integral to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I view this as like a tithe of your time and your talents,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm broke. I'm raising 2 kids. Christian and I spend all of our funny money on our tiny humans. I did make a really adult choice and go to the shoe store the other day. And I go like once a year and I bought 4 pairs of shoes for myself. And one of them was a leopard pair print of Tom's. And I was like, huzzah, I did something good. I bought cute shoes on clearance and they gave a cute pair of shoes to somebody, right? But that's so when you're looking at a budget and you're looking at traveling, this on the surface seems so beautiful to me to be able to say, hey, I will go in and I will learn from another culture, but I would also give of myself to that culture. But then fear, I hate fear, but then fear shows up and I'm like, okay, so is it safe where that individual is looking at going for them to go there? And I know I'm anticipating things have slowed down with respect to, as you said earlier, being on the ground because of COVID.
Yes.
But having the ability to go and volunteer even from home when maybe we physically can't go, I do love that idea. Okay. So talk to me, what does it mean to be on the ground?
So, there's all different types of projects and programs out there. With study abroad, you're usually there for just a week or 2, and it's more observational. So maybe you're meeting with local professionals, maybe ministries of health and education, and hearing what services are like in that country. Also learning about what education is like, because a lot of countries, more than you would think, have their version of speech therapy, but maybe it's just a bachelor's level or maybe even associate's degree. Other programs go in and they provide services, which I do think is great in the short term, but this is where you get into, so once you leave, how are those families still going to access services? Also, a lot of times when people go over to provide services, they bring their own materials. They just think, I'm going to XYZ country. They probably don't have anything. I should bring everything with me, which is a nice way of thinking. But again, once you're gone, the families can't replicate those resources. Sometimes you get into jealousy or, favoritism if one family is given something and the other one isn't. So it actually creates a lot of issues, more so than being helpful.
That's the natural environment. That's what we struggle with in the world of early intervention.
Yeah.
Literally, you just summed it up. Jealousy, yes, because if I bring a bag of tricks into the home, then I'm telling the family, you're only as good as the toys that are in your bag. Mm-hmm. And then when I leave and I take my shiny bag of toys with me, it's an unspoken way of saying, well, now you can't actually do therapy because you don't have these fun, flashy, battery-driven things. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
It's so false. You need to take what they already have there because that's what they can easily replicate and show them how to use it. I mean, you and I can do therapy with, anything and everything. And so that's what you need to be able to do when you go abroad. But another type of program, which one I do prefer, is one that is geared towards educating the local professionals. So whether that is somebody who is their equivalent of a speech therapist, a lot of countries have PTs or physiotherapists, so you might be working with them. But you want to work with a program that is empowering the locals and the families. Because again, once you're gone, like right now during the pandemic, those services, there's a major gap in those services. And so you don't want to work with countries and provide things that, ultimately you can't make sustainable. But also you want countries to know that, just like you said earlier with EI, they're not just as good as your bag of tricks. They are smart, they are capable, and they can rely on themselves. They don't have to rely on outside help.
Yes, they need the tools. So one thing that I worry about, and I am keenly aware of this being a white female working in the South. And when we moved here, I grew up in a small town in Virginia, right? But the locations that I pursued undergrad and graduate school had a lot of military. There was a lot of diversity, right? And so when Christian and I moved to South Carolina, I was like, where have you taken me? It's back in time and not in a good way. I mean, I do appreciate the open vendor street market down the street from us, but racism, not so much. And so one of the worries that I have is I don't want someone thinking that because I am a white female going out, that I think that my skill set is superior in any way, shape, or form. And I am there to, when I go into someone's home in their natural environment, I am there to share my nerdy professional knowledge, but even in that sharing of my knowledge, I have to be open to learn about that home, that culture, and how I can marry my knowledge with their family and cultural priorities, right?
Yes.
So how does that play out when we are abroad?
Very similar. You said it very well, Michelle.
Good, because I was nervous.
That was well said. It's really the same. When you go abroad, you cannot go over there thinking you know everything because you were trained in a specific country. You go over there with an open mind, and you are there to learn. And just like you do with your colleagues here in the U.S., you're there to share information, share resources, ask questions. Again, you're not going over there with, well, I do it right, I know everything, and this is how it should be done. You also need to have that open mindset, like you said, learning about the culture and learning what they have. You're going to learn so much, and you're going to be so humbled when you start traveling, professionally or personally. It's just mind-blowing and so eye-opening what you see. What you read in the news about a specific country is never really how it is once you're there in person. And so just learning more about the culture and, why they might have certain beliefs about a specific disability or why their educational level might be what it is. It's all based on their resources and their culture and how they've adapted to what they have. And it doesn't mean that they're wrong. Not at all. It just means that it's a different way of doing things. And, like I said, you're going to learn so much. Your own skill set will truly grow.
Well, they give you tips on what to wear. And I know that's not vain at all, but that's me just saying I would be concerned that, I love yoga pants and a t-shirt in my day off, right? Or like when I'm not on campus and in scrubs, but I can understand how in some cultures a female running around in yoga pants would be inappropriate. So do they give you tips in advance and like education on what to wear and what not to wear?
Yeah.
Or what to say? I'm thinking hand gestures too. My goodness, you could give the okay symbol and like give somebody the bird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yes. Of course, any program that you're working with, that should be in there, but you certainly should do your own homework. When we do study abroad with our students, I always tell them to be more conservative. Even if where you're going is 105 degrees and 100% humidity, cover up your knees, cover up your elbows. You can't go wrong if you're more conservative versus less. The cultural faux pas, for sure. All you can really do is research. If you get in country and you do find that you have embarrassed yourself, we have all been there. And it really is just a teachable moment for you to step back and say, oh, this is something that I didn't even think about. Next time I know. It's really hard for people like us who talk with their hands, right?
I told one of my students literally yesterday, I was like, I really want you to learn from my mistakes. And they said something, about, I'm sure you haven't made great ones. And I'm like, oh, no. For the first 8 years, I taught the sign for ball incorrectly. So for the first 8 years of my professional career, I taught every little kid I worked with the sign for vagina instead of ball. So as far as failures go, that's up there. So, hand gestures, even in your own country, it's good to. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Thank you, Jill, for teaching me the correct sign for ball.
Yeah. Or, things like languages, a lot of words sound the same as you're trying to learn a few phrases in another language. And, depending on, the people in country and their exposure to people from outside the country, they may be understanding or they may not be. But even things like, food and drink, some countries look down on having food and drink or eating, in public outside of, say, a dining table. And I was in Taiwan in August for a conference, the International Association of Logopedics and Phoniatrics, IALP. And, it was 105 degrees, maybe hotter. And there's signs that say no water on the subway. But I thought, surely, it's 105 degrees. Like, this is for my health. And before I know it, there was a policeman right beside me. And he said, no drinking on the subway. And, I put up my water bottle, but he followed me out of the station.
My God, why?
Yeah, I don't know if he didn't have anything else to do or if he was worried that I would break the rule. But yeah, you really need to know what the rules are and try to follow them to the best of your ability. Of course, you're going to learn things in moment than before.
You're like the most rule-abiding, well-mannered professional individual, and you broke the rule for water bottles.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh my God. I'm not sure I'd be safe to go abroad. I'm not the best rule follower. Oh my.
One of my favorites is in a lot of Asian cultures, it's rude to point. So, they tend to point with their whole hands, but my all-time favorite is in a lot of Asian cultures, the gesture for come here is actually the same gesture we have for go away. So it's like the whole hand palm down, kind of like we would do like, shh, go away. That's what they do for come here. So it's very confusing at first.
I would not get that one. Oh my. Yeah. So, okay. So that's cultural competency 101. This is most excellent. Okay. So I have so many questions that I'm not exactly sure. Okay. So when we go to pick a program, All right, let me backtrack. A couple of years ago, I had an SLP asked to come shadow me, which was very humbling because she was my senior. She's highly skilled, and she wanted to come spend a day with me to learn more about pediatric feeding disorders. And I think the lovely lady and I ended up spending 2 or 3 days together, and she gave me a silver spoon afterwards. And the silver spoon was from Vietnam. And what they did with all of the landmines that they are still uncovering in Vietnam, they melt it down and they turn them into these silver spoons, especially in like this one town, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she was going back to Vietnam to do global speech therapy there. And she was telling me how like they train the physicians and they train the nurses
Mm-hmm.
and what speech therapists they can find and how to assess and treat pediatric feeding disorders, which I thought, and speech therapy in general, but especially like craniofacial abnormalities. And it's very humbling. And I have my silver spoon sitting in the corner of my living room, right? Because it takes, without getting teary-eyed, it takes a whole new meaning on being fed with a silver spoon, right?
Yeah.
And because she was telling me like the horrors of like how many children today still have missing limbs because of all of these things they're uncovering, but turning evil to good.
Mm-hmm.
And so how does one go about making sure that the program that they're volunteering with is ethical?
Mm-hmm.
And not out there to make a profit? Because I could be super naive in this, but I assume that when you go, you're paying to go, that a lot of these aren't them paying you. Is that naive? Is that wrong? Like, help.
Yeah, no, excellent question. So I think there's kind of two parts. So for finding a program that is ethical, you want to look at sustainability. So you want to work with a program that gives back to the country. It's not just about what you're going to get out of it and all the warm and fuzzies, but ask yourself two questions. What is the benefit for the host country? And how will my work there affect the clients' lives beyond these sessions or beyond my work there? If you can answer that question or those questions, then chances are you found a sustainable program. You really want a program that focuses on educating local professionals, educating family members. So again, they can eventually do this work themselves. You don't want a program that is teaching others to rely on them, like, oh, we do it better, kind of that mentality. And you're exactly right. A lot of times, people are always asking about funding. You are paying to go because most of the time you're working in developing countries that have very little money and very little resources in general. So most of the time you are paying to go. And there are certainly programs out there that have a high cost. If you feel like your cost for going is above and beyond the flight and the meals and your housing, chances are someone is pocketing that money. Within the US or a different country. So always look at the cost as well. If it is high, chances are it's not sustainable and they're really working towards voluntourism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've seen some, $4,000 or $5,000, and it doesn't cost that much to be in countries like Cambodia or Zambia. So you got to ask yourself, where's the rest of this money going?
I've seen that. Mm-hmm. As a fully SEED licensed individual, and I've got a weird skill set that I feel that I bring to the table and I can contribute. Would you recommend that we reach out to and going abroad and to make a difference so that, say hypothetically, I get up my fears over COVID and like long distance flights and being away from Pac Dawson because, that's like, those places are farther away. It's not like going across the continental United States, right? Yeah. And I were to go and make a difference. How can is it better to work on training the facilities? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm assuming that this is like big emphasis on coaching versus direct therapy is what I'm getting at.
Yep. Anything to empower the locals, just like when you're going to a continuing education course, You're there to share information, give information, and of course, learn information. And I think it's the same thing when you're going abroad. How can you provide knowledge to the people that you're interacting with? For sure, that's the best way that you can empower locals and make something sustainable. Because once they have that knowledge, they're going to have it after they're gone. And so it's going to look differently for every program. Just like in the US, you can't walk into a hospital or private practice and just start working or even start observing with somebody. But maybe shadowing people for a few days, asking what questions they have, what are things that they wish they knew more about, and then, sharing information as they ask for it. Or as things come up. If you have a chance to model a technique, that's always great too. You may not always have a family member there to model something on, but certainly if you can show them directly, that would be great as well. But anything that you can do to get them to, learn and be hands-on themselves is great.
Do you have to have a license in the country that you're going to?
So you definitely want to research that. So ASHA does have a page. It's asha.org/members/international. They have every country that has some sort of regulating body for speech pathology and audiology in all countries. It's listed alphabetically. You do want to check there because more countries than you realize do have some sort of regulating body. Now, if they have the regulating body, it may not mean that the regulations say that you cannot work in country if you're not licensed there. Every country is going to be different, but definitely do your homework and see what is required, especially if you're doing telepractice or if you're working remotely. You do want to know what is expected within that country, just like you would here in the US across state borders. And just be respectful of that. Like I said earlier, you can't just walk into any hospital or private practice and start doing things hands-on or observing. And so you do want to be respectful of what's expected within that country, even if there's not, say, a license that you need. Okay.
Yeah, because I was just thinking that would add on additional cost if you had to have licensure for
and time.
Yeah. Like this wouldn't be one of those, hey, I saw a killer flight deal and let's hop in a plane and go. This is slightly more than that. Okay, so I speak English and bad English. What about interpreters? Do they typically provide you an interpreter? Because I worry about that.
Mm-hmm. So the programs that I've worked with, there always was an interpreter with us. However, the majority of people spoke English. A lot of countries, the educational language is in English, so books are in English, classes are taught in English, especially at the high school level or college level. So if you're working with the local professionals, a lot of them do speak English. I can't say that for every professional in every country, but you'd actually be surprised about the level of English that you'll find abroad. If you are working with families, maybe sometimes the educational level is lower and they might not have the English skill set. But working with the locals there, they can certainly interpret. If you're going to a Spanish-speaking country, chances are there's always several people in the program who speak Spanish. But we have done study abroad the last 3 years in Mexico, and with study abroad, it's mainly observations. We're going into healthcare and educational facilities, and we're observing the services that they have. And every single time, people are like, "I need to apologize for my English. I'll try to give you this talk in English." Okay, their English is perfect. And my Spanish is terrible. So yeah, you'll be very surprised with the level of English and how you can just get around, even outside of a work day or working with other professionals, just getting around. People are so friendly and they're so helpful. And even though you got to be careful of what gestures you use, it does get you pretty far if you do get lost.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, what are some of your? Okay. So, I want to talk about resources for funding, but what other resources are there for just to learn more about how to do this?
So my top 3 favorites are ASHA, the 617. Join the listserv. I think even if you're not a member, you can still access the perspectives, the journal with each SIG. So I highly recommend that. The Facebook groups I mentioned earlier, great way to get involved. And then you can directly message people as they post things and you're like, oh, this person is in Iceland. Let me just reach out and see what services are there. This person is working in Cambodia. Let me see what I can do there. And then attending conferences. A lot of them are virtual right now, the international ones. The South African one is coming up. It's going to be virtual. The Speech Pathology
Wait.
Australia. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, tell me the names of these conferences, because I don't know these conferences.
So a lot of countries are really growing their conferences, and they're always looking for speakers. So depending on where you work, some people may have CE money if they present at a conference. Some associations may give people who present, say, a discount in registration. Not all, but some. But the South African one is a really big one. I've seen marketed a lot lately. And I think that is in November, and that will be online, obviously South African time. But that would be a great way to hear from presenters who are from all over the world, hear what projects they have going on, hear what's going on in their own research. Speech Pathology Australia, I think they are most likely going to have that online in May. That's another great one, because then you have people from a lot of Asian countries, New Zealand, Australia. They usually attend those.
Okay, so I found it. So it's the South African Speech Language Hearing Association.
Mm-hmm. And
Okay.
ASHA is partnering with them this year to make it virtual.
What? That's
Yeah.
amazing. Okay.
Yep.
So
My
this is
personal, oh, go ahead.
sorry, I have a very naive question.
Yeah.
Is their association, is their licensure commiserate with ASHA's licensure? And forgive me for asking that. I don't know if that sounds okay, but I mean, is it similar to ASHA's?
So I don't know that much about South Africa. We have the mutual agreement, and they are not a part of that. So the mutual agreement, with Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, and I believe the UK. So yes, they're
Wait, I don't know anything about a mutual agreement. What is that?
So it's the MRA, which is the Mutual Recognition Agreement. And there's 6 countries that are a part of this, which basically say, our education and our licensure is so similar that if me as an American citizen wants to move to the UK and start working, technically they would take my transcripts and everything. And technically, I wouldn't have to do anything different. It's all different. And working in those countries for pay is always challenging because you have to get visas. But those 6 countries are Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Ireland, the UK, and the United States.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm now pulling up the Australia Speech Language Pathology of Australia. This is amazing. Okay. I had it sounds like the Interstate Compact license, but I mean, my gosh, trying to convince the 50 continentals or the 50 states of America to join a. Okay, so you're telling me we have countries that have agreed to recognize our licenses commiserate, yet we have states that can't seem to do that.
Yes.
Do you see the problem with that?
Yes.
Okay. People, volunteer with your state association. Let's make this no longer a problem. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I don't even remember what the original question was, Kari.
Well, so I was going through conferences, and I can tell you my all-time favorite, my personal favorite one is the IALP, the International Association of Logopedics and Phoniatrics. They meet every 3 years, and it's just fascinating. 6 years ago, it was in Ireland. 3 years ago, it was in Ireland. In August, it was in Taiwan. In 3 years, it will be in Tel Aviv. So many cool places, so many cool people that go, and it's really opened a lot of doors for me personally, and really opened my eyes to what's out there. So I highly recommend getting involved in international conferences if you can.
Oh, this is so cool. I just found they have a killer website. I'm texting this to a girlfriend. 32nd World Congress of the IALP. Yes. Oh my gosh. That's how many people? Was it just like a gobstop amount of people? Is it as overwhelming as ASHA?
No, but it really depends on the country. So in Ireland, there was certainly a large amount of people. In Taiwan, they found that when they have it in that part of the world, fewer people can get there. Because I think a lot of attendees are coming from the US and from Europe. So, it depends on where they're based out of. But it's just an amazing conference. And that one, I believe I did get ASHA CEs for. I'm sure the other ones, you can get the equivalent of ASHA CEs. So, 2 birds, 1 stone. Network, 3. networking, travel, and then CEs.
Yeah. That sounds like a fabulous win for me.
Mm-hmm.
Just putting the thought out there. Yes. Okay. All right. So how do we get funding to go? Like, is that appropriate? Is that a respectable question to ask?
Yep. And it's a very common one. And I do think it is a barrier for people who are interested in going somewhere abroad, as well as countries who want to host people. So there is very little funding because, chances are you're going to be going to a developing country that just doesn't have a lot of funding and resources. However, if you are flexible and creative, you may be able to find your own funding. You might be able to, say, use CE money, depending on your employer, because there's a lot of free CEs out there. So if you can get free CEs and then maybe convince your employer to pay for, a portion of the trip, that's a possibility. Some programs do have a salary, but it would be more of a long-term position, like maybe 4 months or 6 months or 12 months. And again, keep in mind the salary is going to be what's commensurate within country. So it will be less, but the cost of living will be less. There are a few grants. I've worked with MAITS, which is Multi-Agency International Training, MAITS.
Okay, hang on. That MAITS.
And the website is maits.org.uk. Pre-pandemic, I know that they had travel grants. Now it varies year by year because it is a nonprofit, but they have grants. You can write your own and request, any amount of money. They also have listed both volunteer and paid positions online, short-term and long-term. So there are some grants out there. Obviously, people have different levels of experience with writing grants. So it's just going to be what you're able to find and how creative you can be.
This is beautiful. It's MAITS, Global Disability Training.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this makes my heart happy. All right, I've been rapid fire texting all of this to the lovely Annalisa. She does the marketing PR stuff, so that a way she knows, she's like the perfect hype woman, right? Like she knows how to like take the picture and make it fancy. I mean, I take a picture and I'm like one step above my mom, and I least everybody's heads in it. So like, let's be honest, Bear does better selfies than his mother. Although he is really rocking his Halloween outfits this season. So
oh my goodness, I forgot Halloween is going to happen. I'm like in this time warp.
Oh my gosh, no, he's really into skeletons and labeling bones at 5.
That's awesome.
I know, right? Casually looking and reviewing CT scans at the butt crocodile when he wakes up. But like he's picked out for Halloween. This is amazing. He is going as a skeleton for a dragon, and like complete, like it's just really cool. And I am going as Princess Fiona from Shrek. So like, we couldn't find the big red dragon, so skeleton dragon it is. I don't know how we went that far down that rabbit hole, but there we are. Okay, so if we say you get your funding together and you go over, what are your top best tips for like the first timer going abroad?
Yes, I have several. The first one is be flexible and open-minded. Again, don't go over there thinking like, you were trained in a specific area, the right way to do it. You're going to learn so much in country about that culture, the resources they have, how they adapt using those resources, and you're going to be very humbled by what you see. When I was in Nepal, we did a study abroad program there. Beautiful, beautiful country, and such resilient people there. We were there a year after the earthquake, and you see people walking hours one way to get to work. Same as in Zambia. It's just very humbling, the obstacles that people overcome in other countries. So go over there with an open mind. You are there to learn as well. Research the culture and be flexible with yourself. There's certainly going to be things that you might see that feel so foreign to you or even make you feel uncomfortable. Of course, you always want to be safe. Make sure that your surroundings are safe, stick together, never go out alone, be careful at night, of course, anywhere you go. But you're going to learn so much about the culture. And so, again, look at things with an open mind. Do your research ahead of time and be very patient with yourself. You're going to have faux pas. You're going to put your foot in your mouth. You're going to make a gesture that you didn't realize was bad. And it's just all teachable moments. And, if you do this again, you're going to be that much more advanced in going to another country. People react differently. And there's actually a lot of studies on culture shock. So, even if you have time, just kind of researching those different levels and maybe each day looking at them and saying, okay, this is where I'm feeling today. I'm kind of here on the spectrum, and that's okay.
I haven't. It's culture shock.
Yes, I'd have to look it up for sure. But there is a lot of research out there about how people adapt to other countries. And there's a spectrum, right? So the first one is you're going over there and I need my McDonald's, I need my Starbucks. It's got to be as close to my home country as possible, all the way to you have fully adapted to their clothing, their gestures, their slang. So just kind of think about where you are on that spectrum to begin with.
This is so cool. 4 different phases: honeymoon, frustration, adjustment, and acceptance.
Yep.
And it has like a beautiful little wave that goes up and down. That's, Okay. Another one has 7. Okay. I love this. Yes. So stubbornness, depression are added, minor difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is my husband was telling me about bidets and how in most countries it's frowned upon that we even use toilet paper because they don't use toilet paper and they use a bidet. Is that like, do I really got to worry about getting shot in the arse like that? I mean, like that's really crass, but kind of scary. And is that true?
So toilets are different everywhere. I can't say that I've ever been in a place where the bidet was the only option. Now I have certainly bring your own toilet paper. That is something right there. You bring your own hand sanitizer and you bring your own toilet paper. Of course, be respectful. Don't pull it out. Yes. Don't pull it out in front of other people. Even the hand sanitizer, be respectful, but yes, bring your own toilet paper. Cause you're going to go into a lot of places that maybe the cleanliness factor is going to be different. And so there might not be toilet paper. A lot of countries have squatty potties. So,
Oh, what?
Yeah. So you got to get really good with balance and stretching.
Oh my God. Okay. This is the meat and potatoes part that I really, really needed to know. Okay. Well, good thing pandemic. I have been working on my squats, and one of my patients' moms, honest to God, she goes, "Girl, you've been getting thick." And I was like, well, thank you for pointing out my pandemic pounds. And then, honest to goodness, this patient's LPN that works with the patient, she started laughing. She goes, "No, Michelle, that does not mean what you think that it means. It means you look good." I was like, "Yay, squats!" Squatty potty. Okay. Yep. Squatty potty, pack your own toilet paper. All right, cool.
Yep. I prefer wipes because then you can wipe your hands as well. And it's just a nice, clean feeling. They're multi-use, but if not, Kleenex or toilet paper, always have that as well.
Got it. Okay. Continue on your very functional list. I love it.
I think those are the biggest, just be open, be patient with yourself. As far as things in country. Oh, another thing that comes up is, diet. A lot of people might have, a physical reason for being on a specific diet, and that's certainly understandable. Otherwise, just be open to the food there, eating the food as much as possible within reason. You want to be safe. I don't think that you have to go too overboard with, I'm only going to eat in this one area. The locals will be able to tell you that, and your host and your program guide will certainly be able to guide you in where to eat that's safe and healthy. But as much as possible, see what the locals are eating, try their food. But that being said, be aware of what is in a lot of food. So Korea, for instance, they cook a lot with meat, especially seafood. So if you have a seafood allergy, eating in country may be very challenging. A lot of other countries you haven't eaten until you have protein. So it's really hard for vegetarians. A lot of countries, sorry?
I don't have a gallbladder, so I can eat I can't eat high fat foods, and meats make me sick. Like
Mm.
seafood, I'm okay with because it's lighter,
Mhm.
but yeah. So and dairy. Oh, I love cheese. The feeling is not mutual.
Mhm.
So yeah. I mean,
Yep.
it doesn't exactly stop me from fried mozzarella sticks. Definitely have those like every Friday night, but yeah.
Yep. But do your best to research the foods there and, try as many restaurants as possible. I mean, the best meals I've ever had, Cambodia, Nepal, great cuisines, very low cost for meals. And just the quality is so good. I find that the quality of a lot of foods in other countries is really high because they rely on, they farm a lot. There's a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables. And so the quality is just superb.
Mm.
Another thing you want to think about is the climate. It's different everywhere. Countries have rainy seasons. We may not even know what that is. You might be getting wet. I highly recommend comfortable shoes that you plan on just throwing away because you're going to get muddy. You're going to get dusty. And so good pair of shoes is highly recommended because you're walking over cobblestone, you're walking up hills. You never know when you're going to be somewhere and say, oh, let's just go down this road or let's just climb this hill. Sure, why not? And see the beautiful view on top of this hill. And so you don't want your shoes to stop you. You want something that's respectful, but also really comfortable and easy to move around in. Something that you can sweat in. A lot of countries are really hot. Like the US is hot. Yes, I'm from the South as well. The South is hot. Not like Korea, not like Taiwan, not
Really?
No, it is like going outside in a hot shower, wearing a hot blanket. Like you can just feel this blanket of humidity. And so you got to get comfortable with sweating.
And how's deodorant abroad?
Something that you want to bring with you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That answers the question. Thank you.
Toiletries are going to be different abroad. And if they have them, they might be a little more pricey because a lot of times they might be imported. So you do want to bring toiletries that you're most comfortable with, anything that you think that you might need. Contact lenses for sure, contact solution, toothpaste, deodorant, face wash.
This is a super question. What about like lady products?
Bring
Because
those.
okay, good. I mean, I had a hysterectomy and I don't have that. And my boys found one, I mean, sealed, packaged underneath. Like I try to keep some around for like, in case my sisters or friends come by. And the boys, I think Goose was like 3 and he found one and he was like, look at the rocket. And he was like shooting them out because he found like the box of the unopened ones underneath the door, like underneath the bathroom sink. And I was like, I'm so going to tell you this story when you're like on your like wedding night. Okay. So pack female lady products.
Because, you may have a hard time finding toiletries in country, or again, they might be expensive, or you might just not be able to read the packaging. It might be in a different language. And so you're not really sure what you're getting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Those are very, very valid points. Okay. Okay. Last super technical question. What about cell service, like reliability of like cell phones I'm just thinking if you're going abroad and you want to make sure that like somebody, I've seen all the scary travel movies. So, cell service.
Yep. Great question. I personally look at travel as a way to disconnect. Obviously, you're going to want to check in with your family, let them know you're okay, see what's going on. So I try to limit everything to just when I'm in the hotel and I have consistent Wi-Fi. Try not to bring things like iPads and computers if you're not doing work and you can leave them behind because it also makes you a target. If you're going to countries that, there's very little money there's a lot of poverty, and you're walking around with technology, you are a target, and you may get robbed. So just be careful of that. Try not to have your cell phone out in public, because you never know who's watching you. But again, you won't need it. You need to get lost in the culture and pay attention to your surroundings. And I always use my phone for a camera for sure, but just be there with the culture, pay attention to your surroundings, observe what's going on, because you never know what you're going to see and then, what you want to learn more about. You're just going to miss so much if you're hiding behind technology.
Nice.
But that being said, there are SIM cards. I'm not that tech savvy, but you can always go in country and get their own SIM card. I like WhatsApp It's an app that you can use over Wi-Fi for texting. I do that a lot within other countries, but you should also know some countries won't recognize everything. Like some countries might ban Facebook, so you can't access that or use Facebook Messenger. Some countries might not have WhatsApp, but they have a similar app. So just know what's allowed in country as well.
Nice. You've used this phrase in country. I'm not familiar. I have not heard that phrase. Is that the term for when you travel abroad? When you're in country?
You might also hear host country. So, whatever country that you're going into to observe or do work or even just travel to, you'll hear the phrase in country and host country a lot.
Okay. So I'm assuming that we're going to have questions. So I have to be respectful of our time.
Okay.
But is there anything that we have missed that you want to highlight?
I feel like there's so much.
I know you told me you were like, we could do this over like 3. I was like, yes.
No,
you want to like pack a backpack, throw the kids, and like, let's go.
Yes.
I mean, face mask.
I guess I will add. So anyone who is still a student or a CF, you can do international externships or fellowships. They would just need to be supervised by an ASHA certified SLP if you plan on moving back to the U.S. So that's something to keep in mind. Of course, there may be barriers, pros and cons to going internationally for a short term and continuing your education. But that would be something. And I think just above all else, just to reinforce, when you're looking at doing international work, just ask yourself, what is the benefit for the locals? What can I leave behind so that they can still access services and better themselves?
You've given me so much to process. I'm still stuck on squatty potty and bring hand wipes.
That's always a big one for people. I guess I don't even think about it anymore. But you'd also be surprised about how adaptable you are as a person, but also how adaptable countries are. Like I remember specifically in Taiwan, the call for nature, I could not find a squatty potty, but I couldn't find like a toilet that we're used to, but I looked and looked and looked and I finally found one. So they're out there. Even in countries that use squatty potties, they do have toilets that we're more used to. But, if you really got to go and timing is important, then you might have to just deal with what you got.
Bear did that on an afternoon walk in the park down the street from and I was like, Bobby, can't just walk it out. He goes, but I had to pee and home's like a mile away. And I'm like, oh, getting a little too old for this one, my little 5-year-old. Oh, my stars. Okay. Well, thank you, Kari. Woman, I so very much appreciate you on multiple levels, and I am grateful that you are connecting our world and making it better and brighter and smaller and reachable and obtainable and joyful and kind. So I hope and pray that you're not in quote unquote limbo too much longer on the way to live. and thank you. Okay, so wait, real quick. If somebody has a question, how can they reach you?
They can reach me at Comer K. I still haven't changed my email yet. comerk@gwu.edu, or they can also email me at Kari, Kari, at globalspeechtherapy.com. I have several blogs on the website. I'm about to post one on globalization of speech pathology. And so that is my email link to that website.
Nice. Wait, what is the website?
Oh, globalspeechtherapy.com.
globalspeechtherapy.com. Most excellent. And y'all, she has a fabulous Instagram account too. So I like Instagram because people post fabulous pictures of gardens and food. Yeah. And this makes me, and I get to see all my cousins, and we're like, my family can procreate quite well. So there's a lot of cousins. It's a beautiful family quality to have right there. Okay. Hold on one second and let me switch you over to questions. Okay.
Okay.
Feeding Matters guides system-wide changes by uniting caregivers, professionals, and community partners under the Pediatric Feeding Disorder Alliance. So what is this alliance? The Alliance is an open access collaborative community focused on achieving strategic goals within 3 focus areas: education, advocacy, and research. So who is the Alliance? It's you. The Alliance is open to any person passionate about improving care for children with a pediatric feeding disorder. To date, 187 professionals, caregivers, and partners have joined the Alliance. You can join today by visiting the Feeding Matters website at www.feedingmatters.org. Click on PFD Alliance tab and sign up today. Change is possible when we work together. That's a wrap, folks. Once again, thank you for listening to First Bite, fed, fun, and functional. I'm your humble but yet sassy host, Michelle Dawson, the All Things Peds SLP. This podcast is part of a course offered for continuing education through SpeechTherapyPD.com. Please check out the website if you'd like to learn more about CEU opportunities for this episode, as well as the ones that are archived. And, as always, remember, feed your mind, feed your soul, be kind, and feed those babies.
Bye.